Welcome to Cumberland County, Nova Scotia. I was back in Nova Scotia again, and I really love this part of the province, exploring from Amherst, Wallace, and Pugwash to Parrsboro. Along the way I hiked, had some amazing food, and found some real little-known gems along the way. I started out in Amherst, near the border of New Brunswick, and I'll share more from the town later in the video, but my first stop was a little north in a place most people miss. The first thing I decided to do in Amherst was to come along and find the Tidnish suspension bridge. And I will admit it's a little funny to find this spot. It's not super well marked. You really should use Google Maps to find it. But essentially there's a side road in the area, and you just kind of pull in there and you can park on the grass, and then you walk along this quite obvious path. And I had to ask a gentleman just to be safe, because there was a private property marker just beside there, but anyway, you walk through, and then there's this amazing spot, and I'm kind of amazed to see something like this just in the middle of nowhere out here. This is fantastic. Look at the view down here. It does sway. You can drive from Amherst to Tidnish in just about 25 minutes, so it's a quick trip and it really is a lovely drive. What a beautiful spot. Okay, as far as ways to start your day go, this is pretty good. I've been walking across this bridge for like 10 minutes taking photos and everything, but it is a remarkable spot. And just no fanfare around here really for it. I think I saw one sign for it, but then I wasn't really sure where to go, and I luckily used Google Maps to really discover where I was headed. But just look at this, like, it's amazing. Beautiful spot. Highly recommended. And what I love too is that coming here, nothing else in Amherst is open at this point, and there's a few hiking places and places you can go near Amherst, but as something to do first thing in the morning, this is perfect. From the bridge back to the road where I parked is maybe a 5-minute walk, maybe 7 if you're taking your time. But yeah, it's amazing. Joggins Fossil Center is a must-visit spot to take kids or anyone who loves prehistoric creatures, history, or being a bit of an investigator. 35 minutes southwest of Amherst, the UNESCO World Heritage Site is home to Coal Age fossils of all kinds of creatures, and inside the museum you can learn about the full story before you hunt the beach for signs of the past.
You see, in the 19th century, geologists were like rock stars, no pun intended. Their new releases were eagerly awaited. Their findings, the breaking news of the age. Joggins hit the top of the charts in 18...
There's a small fee to browse the museum, but you can go down to the beach for free or pay a small fee for a guided tour. So this is high tide. So obviously there's not quite as much beach to stand on. I may be more nerdy about this stuff than some people, but I just love seeing all these eras represented in the rock. It's amazing. So clear. So after going through the museum, which I highly recommend because I love what kind of context it gives you, not just for the history of fossil records in general and the people that were kind of researching everything, but it also gives you such a good idea of what to look for down here at the cliffs, because they have a lot of representations of the cliff walls and basically how the rocks fit together and where you can look for tree trunks and potentially fossils in general. I feel like a junior investigator that everything I stop near, I'm looking at every rock detail going, is that a fossil? Is that a fossil? And I think I found a few little tidbits here and there, but it is amazing to, it really fires up the mind to be like, could I find something that no one else has seen here? There is so much fossil records here that's protected, so you're not allowed to come down here and take anything home. And that's good advice, I think, pretty much anywhere, because if you're taking stuff home, other people visiting the beach won't be able to see it either. I think just as a good human being too, it's nice to come and look and see and leave them behind. One thing I noticed, I think, that some people have done is some of the rocks that might be interesting, they've left piled on other rocks, so you can look and see if you spot any of those. I'm playing such a guessing game. Now, that is interesting. So that does, oh, that's definitely fossils. Look in there around the edges. It's, it looks like it must be part of the trees that they've talked a lot about. Definitely looks the same. That's really cool. Well, that's really interesting. That either is a fossilized piece of tree or a very weird piece of coal, but that looks like it must be a tree, obviously. Yeah, that was a great experience. I mean, the fact that you can get down to the beach and that's all free, and I mean, you don't pay much for a tour, and the museum is pretty cheap and gives you such a good interpretation to understand what's going on at the beach. And then I spoke to one of the geologists at the desk, and she kind of filled me in on some of the things that I saw, and like some of it was like basically iron that was coming out of the rock, but then the rest was all fossils. And so it's either shells or the tree fossils. The other stuff, she said, is very rare to see, so going to the museum is your best bet to see some of the actual fossils of like creatures and things. It's amazing. After Joggins, on my way back to Amherst, I stopped by Maccan Tidal Wetlands Park, where you can see a tidal boar twice a day, or just take a walk, spot lots of wildlife, or have a picnic. It's a uniquely East Coast park to enjoy on your road trip through the area. This is such an interesting area. So unless you're from Moncton, New Brunswick, or some parts around Moncton in New Brunswick, really, you may not have seen anything quite like this. But basically, this is where mud meets marsh, and it's this kind of river running through the area because it connects to the ocean. And they have tidal bores. So basically, twice a day, when the tide comes in and goes out, it will basically cause a big wave to come through. And I don't know if it comes to this side. The wetland continues on the other side. The muddy kind of river continues on the other side. And I think that might be more where you can see it. But this is a nice little park through the woods and alongside the marsh. It's a really interesting area to explore, especially for those people who aren't from anywhere near here. I think it's really fascinating. Back in Amherst, it's really worth saying what a gem this town is. There are so few places like this anywhere anymore, and there are so many shops and restaurants. The downtown is beautiful and the people are wonderful. I had lunch at the Art of Eating Deli, a charming place with excellent food and coffee and lots of homemade treats. Another highlight for the crafty people in town is Dean Fitzpatrick's rug hooking studio. You can buy yarn here, rug hooking kits, and even learn the art of hooking. Okay, I just got a lesson in how to be a hooker. And by that I mean like hooking. I guess that doesn't help. Anyway, I went into Deanna Fitzpatrick's road cooking studio, and just amazing stuff. I love not just the art, but everything they're selling. The fact that they're doing like original colors. They're making, I mean, I'm fresh to this, but they're making their own colors for the yarn, so you can buy any of the colors that they've made. They also have other colors as well, and their kits, they have nice little kits that you can buy to try out some of her designs, and they're awesome. And then before I went in there, I was in Mansour's, which apparently it's all related. These are people part of the same family, basically. And Mansour's is the men's shop, and they have tons of amazing clothing in there. Some really amazing clothing in terms of imported stuff, as well as some, I think I saw some Canadian stuff, as well as just like good suits and ties and everything else. Awesome place. And then across the street is the women's clothing store, and that's part of their group as well. So very cool place in Amherst. I feel like the kind of places you just don't see anymore, so very nice. And the raw cooking studio was so busy, which was fantastic to see. The thing I love about the Amherst town square here is that, it's actually called Victoria Square apparently. I love that it feels like something out of Groundhog Day, where everyone comes together for Groundhog Day in the movie. It's such a quaint little spot. If I was someone who made movies, I would say this would be a great spot to film some things. Maybe it's been used in some films and TV. I don't know, but it's beautiful here. Amherst has quite a few shops, and one of the real highlights is a local arts and craft store called Maritime Mosaic. They have pieces from a really wide range of artisans, so it's a great spot to explore and find souvenirs for your trip. A short drive away, you can also find Trider's Craft Beer, a great local brewery with a bar space, 8 taps, plus space for performances in the back. I highly recommend trying their Scotian Pale English Bitter, their Yellow Beer, and Rod's Red. But all their brews I tried were excellent, and they have cans to go as well. For a bit of hiking, fresh air, and a chance to spot some wildlife, Chignecto National Wildlife Area is a beautiful wetland space with lots of birds and animals that you can see almost everywhere you turn. So there's a really big loop you can do on that side around the lake, and this goes right towards the lookout point. This is such a beautiful spot, but I think I came either too early in the day or too late, because I'm sure most animals, like a lot of places, they're either really busy first thing in the morning or later in the evening, closer to when it gets cool. So I didn't see a lot. I saw a duck. I saw a few of the birds that I can't identify, but it is a wonderful place to take a walk right near Amherst. So it's less than a 10-minute drive from the main part of Amherst, and it's quite a big park. This is really just the marshland lookout point where the kind of bird sanctuary is, and it's a beautiful spot. So much wildlife here. You can kind of hear in the bushes, and some of the smaller critters were making noises at me as I passed. For supper after my hike, I worked up an appetite to try some amazing barbecue at our Backyard BBQ. You can try sampler, brisket, pulled pork, fried chicken, and lots more, and the food is so good. There are lots of options for sauces, and it's a real proper smoked barbecue. There's a problem with this brisket that I got, which is amazing. It's that it is so big. Humongous piece of brisket I got with mashed potatoes and beans, and it is delicious. The next day I was on the road headed east, and I stopped on my way in Springhill to see the Anne Murray Centre, a museum dedicated to the Nova Scotian icon and superstar who still stops by sometimes.
Hi, and welcome to the Anne Murray Centre. As you walk through here in the next couple of minutes, you'll get a glimpse of my childhood, my family and friends, and of course, my career. A lot of people have worked very hard to make this centre a success. I think you'll agree they've done a great job.
You'll see photos, letters, personal items, awards, costumes, and so much more. And if you only know a little bit about her life and career, you are probably going to be amazed. But it also says a lot about the town of Springhill itself. And there's a gift shop at the end. Okay, the takeaway here is that the Juno Awards used to be humongous. This is something you just don't see that many artists could do. It is a room full of gold and platinum records, like just every single space. And then the awards, like it's remarkable. Some of the letters and the recognition that she's received, including the Order of Canada, are really a piece of great Canadian music history. As someone who grew up with Anne Murray in my life, and especially because my mother and my grandmother were very big fans, and I think what stands out for me about being here is that Anne Murray was basically the first Canadian superstar that I knew of. I can't think of too many others at the time, so yeah, it was really cool getting a chance to see all the history and stuff, some of the personal things that are inside. It's an amazing story, and I mean, it's a great reason to visit the town. There's a few other things nearby that are worth visiting too, but there's something really special about this. And you know, like they were telling me, Anne Murray was just here last Friday. She has a meet and greet like every summer basically here. It's a great story, and Anne still, I assume, lives nearby, so that's so cool. Around the corner from the Anne Murray Centre is the Springhill Coal Miners Museum. It's an insightful tribute to the workers who helped build the town and the many men who died in disasters there, not to mention the heroes and survivors. Artifacts from the mine help explain how difficult life was as a miner, and then the tour will show you what life was like before you go down into one of the only remaining tunnels. Wow.
Yeah, these guys obviously worked a very, very tough job back then, but they were true heroes back then. They were very good people, saved a lot of miners' life back then, so.
And how many buildings like this would there have been back then? You'll learn some safety information and then walk down into a tunnel that was once part of the mine here. And it's a little shocking, to be honest, about what life was like for these miners. Wow. Coming here and seeing how they lived, I mean, I'm sure actually the 1800s or maybe even worse, but seeing how they lived, the mine entrance, and that was from the 1960s that I went down. You know, it's really eye-opening. If it doesn't put your life in perspective, I don't know what will. We have it remarkably easy in many ways compared to what people 50, 60, 100 years ago were put through. And it's fascinating. In the history of Springhill as well, just everything that went on here, massive fire they had in 1975, I think it was. Like, this town went through so much between all the people who died in the coal mines. There were 3 different mines, and then, you know, the town itself burning down basically after the peak of all of that. It's shocking, but this town has really persevered, I would say. It's not the town it was, but it's something else. And then to have the Anne Murray Museum, you know, not far from here, it's really interesting to see the different sides of Springhill, I would say. It's something else, something worth visiting this area for alone is these two places. My next stop was Wallace to check into the Wallace River Ranch, where I stayed in one of their cozy domes. Welcome to my little home away from home, at least for 2 nights. Give you a little tour. So the backyard, I've got this yard space. I've got barbecue, Little table, there's even lights, and yes, there's a hot tub. I'm looking forward to that later. If I can withstand the bugs, I guess. I do love the lights, so let's go inside. This is the kitchen. It's a great little kitchen. Got all the amenities you could want. That's a nice little welcome thing with some soap. Yeah, so there's a fridge with a freezer, a stove with an oven. They have all your pots, pans, and utensils, full sink, soap, paper towel, coffee. I brought my own food because I am going to cook a little, but they have it all. And then this is the bathroom. So there's a full bathroom with a shower. The living space features a TV, a fan, there's curtains for privacy, a couch and a chair, a fireplace, and a large, comfy bed. There's also a heating and air conditioning unit to warm up the space in the fall and winter, and to keep it cool in the summer, so you can adjust those settings, make yourself nice and cozy here. It is a wonderful space. It's very spacious with all the amenities that you'd want, and Wallace River Ranch is close to town and near Pugwash as well, so it's certainly located near a number of places to explore. And I really love the view and relaxing by the fire. They will provide the instructions for everything and the firewood as well. So all you need to do is bring a book to read, your clothes, some food, and that's it. It's a bit like glamping in the woods, and it is so peaceful and wonderful. I had the best day here. Okay, so up here, there is a whole bed. Actually, I'm sorry, there's two beds. Each one of these, I looked at them, I thought they were couches. So there's two beds up here. There's a fan, a little light, and you're right up here with the stars. Wow, that's really cool. So you could come here and you could have two people in the bed downstairs, and you could have two, or maybe, I'm gonna say 3, 4. You can have 4 people easily, especially if they're kids. The kids will love a space like this. Like, come on. How cool is this? I've never stayed in one, and I'm just gonna say right now on camera, my wife has been dying to stay in one, so this will be a trial run, I guess, for me, and then hopefully her and I and our kiddo can get out to stay at a dome tent somewhere else. So it's a beautiful spot. Cheers. I don't know if you can hear that, but there's an owl. Once it hoots, I've heard other owls hooting in the distance. The next day was beautiful. I got up, I made myself breakfast, enjoyed the beautiful fall weather, and I walked to the farm to see the Discovery Trail and meet the family's goats. Hi. I don't got nothing for you, but I'll say hello. Hi. 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 Yeah. And I got to meet a cute little puppy while I was visiting there too. I spent the morning exploring Tatamagouche, a small town with lots of shops, restaurants, a brewery, and a fantastic chocolate shop, Appleton Chocolates Company. They have lots of different assortments of chocolate, but they specialize in maple centers, and they have them available with ginger, cherry, and blueberries. I left with a whole assortment, and I really can't recommend the coffee cream enough. You have to try it.
Here, so just
amazing.
Beer and churro.
A few steps up the street is the Tatamagouche Brewing Company, a lively spot that makes a lot of varieties of beer with almost everything available on tap and in cans and bottles too. Plus they have a great outdoor patio and lots of merch. One note is that while they have great beer, they don't serve food, so plan to eat nearby at the Chowder House Pizzeria or Big Al's. Tatamagouche is such a great little town. It has this really wonderful main street where there's so much going on. There's a chocolate store, there's a health food store, there's Tatamagouche Brewing, which had the most amazing mix and range of beer available. There's a few restaurants, there's a place you can get clam chowder. It was fantastic. A quick drive away, Jost Winery in Malagash is a fantastic spot to stop and try some award-winning wines, grab a bite to eat, and enjoy a sunny afternoon on their patio. Their large selection and varieties of vintages are sure to please wine lovers, and they have a really great cafe menu as well. Stop here, grab a bite, try some wine, and be sure to take home a bottle or two at the end. I tried a couple samples and I loved the lobster sandwich with salad. It was absolutely delicious. And just like 10 minutes up the road, you'll find a relaxing seaside park, Blue Sea Beach Provincial Park. This is along Malagash, the Malagash Peninsula, and that's not far from Wallace, where I'm staying. And it's just this beautiful rustic beach. I mean, it's not the kind of beach you're gonna come to and sun yourself. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's a rugged beach where you're probably gonna wanna hike, and I love that. I'd rather be walking on a beach than sunning myself on a beach. I'm not gonna lie to you. So yeah, this is wonderful. It's just a stretch of ocean on the edge of Nova Scotia. It's beautiful. I've had a wonderful day. I love following the little dog prints. If I was channeling my daughter, I would probably still get my feet wet, but I have other places to be next. From Malagash, I drove to Pugwash for a couple of hours in the historic town. But first, I stopped at Cheryl's Bakery to get a treat, and I was not disappointed. They had lots of cookies, cakes, pies, and so much more, but I had to have an old East Coast favorite. I could not be happier with my choice. After my treat, I walked around the waterfront and made my way to one of Nova Scotia's little-known historic sites. Pugwash is charming and has restaurants and things to do, but Thinker's Lodge is an incredible local highlight that had an important place in history. In 1957, Thinker's Lodge was the site of the Pugwash Conferences on Science and World Affairs, with some of the top minds in the era talking about how they could deal with nuclear weapons. The result was a Nobel Peace Prize, and it's on display still at the lodge. Today you can rent the space for events and weddings, and you can learn about the history and see the prize on display in the main room. They also have a nice little gift shop where you can pick up local art and products. It's a beautiful spot to stop and see a little bit of history and some of these amazing coastal views. For supper that evening, I went to Wiley's by the Wharf in Wallace, an upscale restaurant with an amazing menu, great drinks, and a wonderful chef and staff. I was lucky enough to get some of the last swordfish of the season and a delicious tiramisu for dessert. Then I finished with a little walk on the wharf at sunset. It is a perfect place to take a walk after dinner, and it was one of the most stunning sunsets I saw on the whole trip. What a view. It doesn't get much more Nova Scotia than this. While you're visiting parts like this in Nova Scotia, you have to check out the night sky. It was absolutely remarkable, miraculous. I saw so many stars. It's a chilly morning, so I'm starting the day with a little bit of a fire so I can warm up, and then I have to make breakfast before I head out. Okay, I had to stop in Oxford on the way to my next stop because it's the giant blueberry man. I believe because Oxford is the official or unofficial, I'm not sure which, blueberry capital of Canada, I'm assuming. The Trans-Canada Trail is just over that way, and I'm gonna go walk through a bit of Oxford and take a peek because it looks like a charming little town. When you stop by Oxford, be sure to visit GJDE, or the Alphabet Store as the owner likes to call it, on Water Street. It's right off of Main Street. It's such a fun store. There's candy and almost everything under the sun, including an old-fashioned kids ride. And there's also both a Halloween and a Christmas section that are all year round, and they are frankly smile-inducing. And of course they also have local items as well for souvenirs and gifts. I picked up a blueberry chocolate bar here. I really like this little town. I think the word sleepy little town might apply, but I mean, it's pretty busy. It's just that there's not a bustle around any main thing. It's a quiet little town in some ways, but yeah, very pretty. For one of the last areas on my trip, I arrived in Parrsboro that afternoon, and it was immediately one of my favorite places on the whole adventure. The town is large and welcoming with lots to see. There's an art gallery, multiple museums, and some of the best views anywhere. I stopped by Two Islands Brewery to try some of their delicious brews, and I can't say enough about their By the Bay Blonde, the Fundy Fog APA, and the Hefeweizen. They had a lot on tap. There's cans for sale and merch, and they often have live music with a great outdoor patio. Around the corner from the brewery is Art Lab Studios, an art gallery that's packed with an incredible array of styles and works by local artists. If you love art, you should visit at least to look around, and there are always some artists around to talk about their work. A 5-minute drive from the gallery is the Fundy Geological Museum, with an incredible collection of fossils, a gift shop, and lots of interesting highlights for the kids and the adults who love dinosaurs. You can even look in on their research facility and where they work, and they have a very unique claim to fame.
World's smallest dinosaur footprints. I heard about this. Wow.
The museum hosts special events, beach walking tours, and they pay tribute to the indigenous Mi'kmaq people who lived here. Plus, check the gift shop for mementos, books, and things the kids will love that will also keep them amused while you're traveling. For supper, I went straight to the Harbour View restaurant. This is an institution in the area with lots of seafood on the menu. There's fresh pies and lobster rolls. And I have to say, if I could go back to just one place in Parrsboro right now, it would absolutely be the Harbour View for another plate of clams. It's a beautiful spot on the harbor, so make sure that you step out and see if the tide is in or not, and maybe grab a seat on a giant chair by the beach. Welcome to Parrsboro, Nova Scotia. It is an awesome spot. It is one of the most interesting areas along the coast that I've seen in most of Nova Scotia. I'm not going to say all of it, but I mean, the stretch between Parrsboro and out towards Fox Point, where I'm staying, is twisty and turny, and the cliffs along the ocean go up and down. There's beaches. It is amazing. And it's actually part of a cove where you can see across the way to another part of Nova Scotia. And all of this is on the Bay of Fundy, so it's also opposite New Brunswick across the water in another direction. So really interesting area and so much to see and do here. Probably the most activities that I've seen anywhere that I've been so far in Nova Scotia. While I was visiting Parrsboro, I stayed a little outside town at Fox Point Inn. It's a rural home away from home with so much charm, great breakfast, and the most welcoming hospitality. It's a great location too because it's just on the outskirts of town, so it's quiet while still being close to the parks and museum and Parrsboro itself. Welcome to my room in Fox Point Inn. I'm in Main East. So I'll show you the bedroom. And then I've got a cool bathroom. And then I even have my own little kitchenette. Here's my little kitchenette. For my second day in Parrsboro, I had a delicious breakfast. I was up to explore, and I had to say hello to the chickens before I left. Hello, ladies. Okay, hi. It's one of those dramatic mornings. It's supposed to clear by about 1 o'clock. I think it's gonna help keep the trail cool while I hike, but I'm headed off to Chignecto, the provincial park here. It's about 30 minutes away, so I'm gonna go there, hike for maybe 2 hours, and then I'm gonna see where else I can go to. So I'm gonna walk back along the beach, but I love their slogan. It's amazing. The fog has cleared, which is nice. That's quite the dramatic view. Okay, I thought I'd show some of the harder moments. So this is a great hike. So as I said, I'm in Cape Chignecto and I'm walking the second trail. These ones all kind of connect because they all go around the whole cape. And so I'm on the second part of the trail that will connect down to the beach, which is where I'm gonna head back because I have other hikes I wanna do. But the honest truth is, you know, some of these things are challenging, and I mean, that's why I want to do some of them. I also like the exercise and trying to keep in some sort of shape other than round. And yeah, I've really enjoyed this trail, but man, I am warm. The whole first quarter, I'm gonna say, or maybe fifth, is all uphill to get to the rest of this that now seems to slope down. So yeah, it was a challenge getting to this point. Now the rest of it is just beautiful. Yeah, I know, concerning. I know. I didn't really realize how high up I climbed on those hills. It does kind of explain a lot now, because I started basically not far above the beach. So, and now here I am. Started at the bottom, now I'm here. This is why you hike. Let's look at that. I'm almost at the beach. I just have a little stairwell here to get down. Fairly steep steps here and short steps, but what a view. Back is going to be a little challenging, only because I'm going to say it's about 1.5 kilometers, maybe 2 at the most. But the tide comes in, when it comes in an inch a minute. And I understand I have the time. I still have quite a few inches to spare here. But essentially, I think everywhere I'm walking is gonna be underwater. So it's now or never. Just look at that view. Of course, I had to come climb on the rocks. It's so beautiful. That's it for Cape Chignecto. I'm gonna head on to Cape Door, where I believe there's a lighthouse, and then I'm headed back towards Parrsboro, but there's a couple of museums I'm gonna check out first, so here we go. Cape Door isn't so much a hiking spot as it is a sightseeing spot. So you can park up at the top here. You have to drive along a 5-kilometer stretch of dirt road to get here, which is a little rough. I will warn you, it's not perfect. You don't need a 4x4 or anything, but it's not the smoothest drive. And then you'll park, and then you walk down here. So the only other side of this, of course, is that means you also have to walk back out. Look at those cliffs. This is beautiful. My kind of rugged, scenic. That doesn't seem real. Wow. That's as far as I'm going. The other side actually looks maybe a little bit safer. There is a restaurant here. It's only open certain times of the year and for certain hours, very specific. So you can't just show up and expect it to be open. They do have a website, and they recommend that you check it out and either call them or message them to find out if you can get a reservation for a certain time. And if you don't hear back, it's not confirmed until they actually get back to you. So good to know. It is a beautiful spot to stop and have a meal and come and visit. The lighthouse is just a little lighthouse, but it really does set a tone here. And then behind me, the cliffs are just amazing. Cape Door ended up being one of my favorite spots, and I would go back just to try the restaurant if I had the time. But just remember that the hike out can be fairly steep, so don't rush it. Another short drive away was the Age of Sail Museum. It's a historic spot dedicated to the era of shipbuilding and sailing that dominated the area, particularly since settlers first arrived here. There's a lot of really interesting history here, including a lot of how people survived in this area. There are also relics, there are recreations of building techniques, large model boats and ships, and even recovered artifacts from sunken ships. Not to mention a whole area inside the hull of a boat. There's also a working blacksmith shop, a cafe, and even a lighthouse that's been set up in the parking lot.
That's my oldest. And my Angus, coming up over the Beach Hill Road. Just home from their first coasting voyage. Angus swaggering.
For the science lovers or anyone else who just loves to have a great scenic view, the Fundy Ocean Research Center for Energy is also nearby, and there you can learn about what they're doing to capture the power of the ocean. Or you can also just step out onto this great deck and enjoy a really wonderful view of the harbor. And then it was just about time for me to leave Parrsboro. Box Point Inn has been wonderful. I love the location. I love just the fact that it's such a quiet place, basically in the woods, along the shores of Parrsboro, not far away. So it's like a 20-minute drive from here into town, and it really is a wonderful spot. There's just, the there's just so much nature everywhere you turn. It's wonderful. The hospitality is great here. The food was great. After I checked out of the inn, I made a stop to see the historic Ottawa House. This is where Canada's 6th Prime Minister, Sir Charles Tupper, once lived, and inside you'll find lots of history and information about the people who lived here and what it was like to live here during the 1800s and into the 1900s. There are record players and dolls and a room dedicated to what it was like going to school during this era. There's clothing and all sorts of history that's really interesting. I have to give a shout out to Parrsboro's local radio station, 99.1. I've been listening to it on and off the whole time I've been in town, and it's phenomenal. I don't know if you can hear it. I have to talk over it for copyright reasons, but it's all classic country and kind of old school folk that, you know, my grandmother listened to when I was growing up, and it's just the most classic country stuff. It's amazing. I love it. Well, that's it for my time in Parrsboro. I had a great visit. I could easily spend a few more days here just to do some more hikes, but it was a great stop. I'm a big fan. If I had to pick a favorite stop on this trip, Parrsboro is way up there. The town is fantastic. There's lots to eat and do, but I also love this coastal region. Has so many amazing viewpoints, places to look out over the ocean, amazing trails to hike. It's a very cool spot. I would definitely recommend 3 to 4 days here to fully explore, especially if you love hiking. It checks off a lot of my top things when I'm looking for a place to visit. This is Five Islands Lighthouse Park, and obviously when it's not quite so misty, it's probably a little more iconic because I can see that there's islands out there, but I can't really see them. Okay, so I can definitely see, I can see 5 islands. So, not well, but there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wow. That's very cool. My flight home was out of Halifax the next day, so I had a number of hours to drive to the airport. I made a few last stops, including 5 Islands Provincial Park, with its gorgeous beach and views of the islands. Driving from Parrsboro to Halifax, you pass right by that Dutchman's cheese farm. It's a family-friendly shop and petting zoo that sells meats, cheeses, especially Gouda, and some other food, and they even have wooden shoes. Hi there. I don't have anything for you, I'm sorry. Kids will of course love the petting zoo, where you can meet and feed lots of farm animals, including sheep, ducks, rabbits, donkeys. There are pigs, geese, and swans, and lots of other animals. Along the way you can purchase food to feed the animals, and they are very happy to receive a little treat. Where did you escape from? Hi. Got myself some lunch. I'm looking forward to trying the Gouda because it's smoked Gouda. I just had to stop to film this to say the cheese is amazing. It is so good. I'm very sorry I didn't buy a whole block of it. You could buy a big round of it, but I just can't. I can't travel with that, unfortunately, but this was so good. Finally, I stopped by Masstown Market for supper and to get a few treats. And it's an impressive roadside stop that has gas station and fast food on one side, with a big marketplace selling meats and cheeses. And on the other side of the road is a fish and chip lighthouse with lots of seafood options served out of a boat, I might add. And then inside you'll find a supermarket selling produce, pre-made meals, hot food, and the best ice cream in Nova Scotia. That's what I call a double. This is Scottsburn ice cream. I dropped off my car rental and made it to the Alt Hotel Halifax Airport, a great business hotel attached right to the airport. Well, my bags are packed and I'm ready to go. It's been a fantastic week in Nova Scotia. I had the best time. I met so many people. I went to so many places. I got to see so much of an area that I'd never explored before. And Nova Scotia was so welcoming. The hospitality was wonderful. I just had the best time. I also put together some stats based on my whole experience. So I drove just under 1,000 kilometers. I had 38 places that I visited in the week. I took over, I'm gonna say around 3,000 photos and videos, and I walked over 52,000 steps. So I'd say it was pretty successful. I mean, I certainly saw a lot. I've got so much to share in stories beyond just the videos, but yeah, it was a great week. Thank you very much for watching. Let me know if you have any questions or if you want to leave a comment about anything from the trip, or if you're planning a Nova Scotia vacation. I'd love to hear about it. Thank you very much to Tourism Nova Scotia, Cumberland County and all of their tourism partners, and to all the places that put me up for this amazing trip. I can't wait to explore more of Nova Scotia again very soon.